After your best friend visited you, you noticed drastic changes in Jungkook. It's like he wanted to let you know that he can be caring and more than what he looks. It was as if he was on a mission to prove himself to you. He started leaving you coffee in the morning the way you like. Before going to work, bring something like small presents or chocolates, telling you he was just passing by and noticed and you know the truth. But you didn't interfere because you knew he was opening up to himself. He was realizing his feelings and you wanted him to feel that naturally. But right now, your world came crashing down when you got a call from your mother that your grandmother was extremely serious and might not survive. You literally broke down, but Jungkook held you. He calmed and offered to accompany you because he didn't want to leave you alone in such a situation. The two of you were on the road within 20 minutes, but as the hours passed, tension built, the skies darkened, and you grew more anxious with every mile. Your phone rang again, and the shaky voice on the other end only added to your panic. Oh, ma, how is she now? Your voice was shaking, but you tried to sound as normal as you could in this situation. Vian, hurry, she's asking for you. Your voice cracked as you hung up, tears streamed down your face, and you clutched your hands tightly in your lap. Jungkook, I need to get there before. Your words broke into sobs and you pressed your face into your hands. Jungkook's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he glanced at you. He slowed the car and pulled over to the side of the road. Vian, look at me, he said softly. You didn't respond, lost in your grief. He gently reached over, taking your hands in his and pulling them away from your face. Hey, we'll get there, I promise. You're not alone in this. But what if I'm too late? I can't, you said, sniffling. Listen to me, you're doing everything you can. She knows you love her. That's what matters. His steady tone and the warmth in his eyes calmed you slightly. He reached for a bottle of water in the back seat, handing it to you. Drink this, take a breath. I need you to trust me, okay? You nodded shakily, taking a small sip. Good, now lean back. I'll drive as fast as I can, but you need to take care of yourself too. His words soothed you, and though the ache in your heart remained, his presence gave you strength. He placed a reassuring hand on your knee for a moment before starting the car again. You arrived just in time. Your heart was racing as the car stopped outside your grandmother's house. Jungkook quickly parked and opened the door for you, but you were already running inside. He followed closely. His steady presence remained right behind you. Inside, the air felt heavy with worry. The living room had been turned into a sick room. Your grandmother lay on the bed looking so small and frail under the blankets. Her breathing was weak, but her eyes fluttered open when she heard you. Grandma, you called her name almost choking while she spoke softly. Fine, you're here. You dropped to your knees beside her, holding her cold, shaking hand tightly as tears ran down your cheeks. Yes, Grandma, I'm here. I came as fast as I could. She gave a faint smile, her eyes lightened up just a little. You always come for me, my darling. Of course I do, Grandma. I love you so much. I'm sorry it took me so long. You said, crying. Your mother sat beside you, placing a hand gently on your shoulder. She looked tired and worried but stayed calm for your sake. She's been waiting for you all day. It's like she was holding on just to see you. Your mother said softly while you continued sobbing. Grandma, please don't leave us. You'll get better. I'll stay here with you. Grandmother's smile grew a little, her voice barely a whisper. I already feel a little better now that you're here. Behind you, Jungkook was standing quietly, watching everything. His face showed concern, but he didn't say much. Then you felt his hand gently on your shoulder when you leaned back slightly, too overwhelmed. He knelt beside you and put his arm around you. His warmth was calming you. She knows you're here now. Take your time, he said quietly. Your grandmother's eyes shifted to Jungkook and her smile softened even more. Is this your husband? You looked at Jungkook, your cheeks were still wet with tears. You nodded. Yes, Grandma, this is Jungkook. Jungkook leaned forward a little, bowing his head politely. It's nice to meet you, ma'am. Wine talks about you a lot. She does, doesn't she? Be good to her, young man. She's the heart of this family, she said with a faint smile. Jungkook's voice was serious as he replied, I will. You don't have to worry about her. Your mother squeezed your hand and you broke into quiet sobs again, touched by your grandmother's words and Jungkook's quiet promise. Stayed beside your grandmother for hours, talking softly and sharing memories. Jungkook didn't leave your side. He brought you tea and draped a blanket over your shoulders without a word, his actions showing how much he started caring about you. After your grandmother fell asleep and you saw her as much as you wanted, you found yourself alone with Jungkook as everyone else went to sleep. There was a very strange but comfortable silence between the two of you. For the first time, you were opening up to him and he was listening intently. I miss home sometimes. It's simple here. Life in the city feels overwhelming. Jungkook was standing beside you, his hands in his pockets, as he gazed out at the same view. I can see why it's different here, calm, peaceful. He said softly. You turned to him, surprised by his tone. You have never had this, have you? He shook his head slowly. No, everything in my life has been fast, busy, complicated. I never stopped to notice anything like this before. You smiled faintly, even as tears still visible in your eyes. It's beautiful, isn't it? Jungkook looked at you, his gaze stayed longer than usual. Yeah, it is. After a moment of silence and looking at each other, you finally spoke again. Jungkook, I want to stay here for a while with my family. Grandma needs me. His heart sank at your words. He had grown used to having you close, to the small moments that were becoming the highlights of his days. The thought of being without you felt unbearable, but he saw the desperation in your eyes and he knew he couldn't be selfish. He slowly nodded. If that's what you need, I understand. You looked at him, surprised by his easy agreement. You don't mind? He gave you a small, sad smile. I mind, but what matters more is you. If this makes you happy, then it's the right thing to do. His words warmed your heart, and for a moment you forgot about everything else. Thank you, Jungkook, for being here, for everything. He stepped closer, placing a gentle hand on your shoulder. I'll always be here for you, Wayne, no matter what. You smiled and nodded. I know. Then again, there was silence, but Jungkook seemed that he still wanted to say so much, and then he slowly held your hands in his. His touch was gentle, making your heart skip a beat. Wayne, there's something I need to say. You were only looking him, surprised by the vulnerability in his voice. His dark eyes, usually so unreadable, now held a depth of emotion that you hadn't seen before. Jungkook, what is it? He looked down at your joined hands as though gathering the courage to continue. When he spoke, his voice trembled even so slightly. I have made so many mistakes. From the very start, I was wrong. I was cold, distant. I pushed you away when I should have been the one standing by your side. You shook your head slightly, but he tightened his grip on your hands. His voice was more insistent. No, let me finish. You deserve to hear this. His gaze met yours, and the pain in his eyes was unmistakable. I let my pride, my fears, my past dictate how I treated you. I let you feel alone when you should have felt cherished, and I stayed silent when others disrespected you. When they hurt you, I didn't step in. I let you down, Mayan, in every way that mattered. Tears welled up in your eyes as you listened to his words, each one laced with regret. Jungkook, you don't have to, he interrupted. I do. You have always deserved better than what I gave you. I see it now and I hate myself for how blind I was. You are the best thing that has ever happened to me and I didn't see it because I was too wrapped up in my own world, but not anymore. A tear slipped down your cheek and he reached up, instinctively brushing it away with his thumb. His touch was so gentle that it sent a shiver through you. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make up for the pain I caused you, but I want to try. I want to be the man you deserve, the one who stands by you, who protects you, who loves you, the way you should have been loved from the beginning. Your breath hitched at his words. Your heart was pounding in your chest. Jungkook, do you really mean that? His voice was firm now, no hesitation in his tone. With every fiber of my being, I'm so sorry, Ryan, for everything, for not being the husband, the partner you needed. But I'm here now, and I'm not going to let you down again. You stared at him, overwhelmed by the raw honesty in his words. Slowly, you squeezed his hand. A small smile started to break through your tears. I've seen you change, Jungkook. I've seen how much you have been trying, and I forgive you. I know how hard it's been for you, but you are here now. That's what matters. His own eyes glistened with unshed tears as he leaned his forehead against yours. His voice sounded like a broken whisper. Thank you for giving me another chance, for not giving up on me. In that moment, as the stars watched over you, it felt like a fresh start. The pain from the past was still there, but now there was hope for healing and love. For the first time, Jungkook wasn't just your husband, he was the man you knew you could rely on through every challenge. The week without you was unbearable for Jungkook. The house felt cold and empty without your presence. He missed your laughter, your small habits, and the warmth you brought into his life. Mornings felt dull without seeing you at breakfast, and nights were restless without you beside him. At work, he couldn't focus. Every little thing reminded him of you. The scent of your favorite tea still in the kitchen, the faint trace of your perfume on his pillow. His phone became his lifeline, and he found himself staring at it, waiting for a message or a call that never came. How did I live without her before? He said to himself, staring at the picture of you that he took secretly. By the end of the week, he couldn't take it anymore. He packed a small bag and made the drive to your parents' house, unable to stay away for even one more night. When you saw him standing at the door, your eyes widened in surprise. Jungkook, what are you doing here? I couldn't stay away, he said softly. He stepped inside, pulling you into a tight hug, holding you as if he had been starved for your presence. I missed you more than I thought was possible. You smiled, wrapping your arms around him as relief washed over you. Wow, I'm happy to hear that. Your parents exchanged a knowing glance, smiling at how much he seemed to care for you. That night, Jungkook joined your family for dinner. Though he wasn't used to the modest setting, he adapted quickly, helping your father carry dishes and even talking with your grandmother, who was now better. After that, you brought him to show your fields. Jungkook felt completely at peace. He was so happy and also realized why you loved this place so much. And that one, you see, it's all ours. First my grandfather used to take care of that farm and now my dad. Jungkook smiled. He was taking so much interest in knowing everything. That's a lot of land. You chuckled and nodded. Jungkook stood next to you, gazing out at the quiet fields as the sun began to set. The air was still filled with the soft hum of crickets and the distant laughter of children playing in the village. You both had spent the last few days reconnecting, not just with each other, but with a side of life Jungkook had never experienced. This place, it's so different from what I know. It's peaceful, no noise, no pressure. I see now why you love it so much. It's not perfect, but it's home. It's where I feel most like myself. He turned to look at you. His gaze was soft yet intense. I understand that now, and I want to be wherever you are, Ryan. I've spent this week without you feeling like something was missing, like I was missing. I don't think I can go back to that without you. Your chest tightened at his words, tears threatened to spill. Jungkook, Jungkook reached for your hand. His touch was both warm and reassuring. I'm sorry for how I've treated you in the past, for being cold, for letting you face things alone when I should have been by your side. I want to be better for you, for us. I don't want to lose you. You squeezed his hand, tears streaming down your face as you whispered, "You are not going to lose me, Jungkook." Ryan, I know this place means a lot to you. I can see how happy you are here, how alive you look. It's like you're glowing. You smile, brushing a strand of hair behind your ear. It's home, Jungkook. It's where I grew up, where all the memories of my childhood live. But it's not just this place that makes me happy anymore. His brows furrowed in confusion. What do you mean? Your grip on his hand tightened as you came closer to him. It's you, Jungkook. Wherever you are feels like home now. I just needed to spend some time here to remember who I am. But I don't want to stay forever. I want to go back with you. His eyes softened and the heart swelled with happiness. I promise no matter where we are, I'll make sure it feels like home for you. I'll bring you back here whenever you want, and I'll be there with you every step of the way. You'll never have to feel like you're leaving something behind because I'll make sure you have it all. You felt tears prick your eyes at his words. You really mean that? I have learned something about myself these past few days. I can't be without you, Ryan. You have become my anchor, my peace. If this place is a part of you, then it's a part of me too now. You leaned into him, resting your head against his chest as his arms wrapped around you protectively. Thank you, Jungkook, for being here, for giving me strength and supporting me when I felt my lowest. I'm the one who should thank you, for showing me what love can feel like, even if you didn't expect it at first. The two of you stood there in silence for a while, the world figuring around you. Jungkook knew this moment would stay with him forever, a reminder that love wasn't just in grand gestures or words, but in simple being present. And as the two of you returned to the city hand in hand, Jungkook knew one thing with absolute certainty: loving you was the best decision he had ever allowed himself to.